Captain Jake Morrison wiped the sweat from his forehead as he watched his crew work on the asteroid mining platform. The year 2387 had been good to humanity, though most aliens still saw them as nothing special. Jake didn't mind. He preferred the quiet life of mining operations in the outer rim. "Captain, we're getting something strange on the long-range sensors," called out Engineer Pete Johnson from his station. His fingers danced across the control panel, trying to make sense of the readings. Jake walked over and looked at the display. Red warning lights flashed across the screen. "What am I looking at, Pete?" "It's a distress signal, sir. Coming from the Kepler research station about 6 hours away. The signal is weak, but it looks like they're in serious trouble." Dr. Lisa Carter, the ship's medical officer, joined them at the console. Her face showed concern as she read the data. "Jake, that's a Zephyrian station. They don't usually ask for help from anyone, especially not humans." Jake knew she was right. The Zephyrians were proud beings who looked like tall, blue-skinned humans with silver eyes. They were smart, maybe smarter than most species in the galaxy. For them to send a distress signal meant something really bad was happening. "Sir, our orders are clear," Pete said quietly. "We're supposed to focus on mining operations only. No detours, no rescue missions, especially not for alien facilities." Jake stared at the screen for a long moment. The signal kept flashing, weak but steady. Somewhere out there, people were dying. It didn't matter that they weren't human. They needed help. "Lisa, how long would it take us to get there?" "With our current engines, about 5 hours if we push them hard," she replied. "And our mining schedule?" Pete checked his datapad. "We'd lose about 2 days of work, sir. The company won't be happy." Jake made his decision. "Plot a course for the Kepler station. Full speed." "Sir, are you sure about this?" Pete asked. "Those are people out there, Pete. Real people with families, dreams, hopes. I don't care what species they are. We help." The Terra Nova changed course, its engines humming as they pushed toward maximum speed. Jake's crew didn't complain. They knew their captain well enough to trust his judgment. As they traveled, Lisa worked on preparing the medical bay. "Jake, I've been reading about Zephyrian biology. If they're injured, I'll need to adjust our medical equipment." "Do whatever you need to do," Jake said. "Just be ready." 5 hours later, they arrived at the Kepler research station. What they saw made everyone on the bridge go silent. The massive space station was breaking apart. Huge chunks of metal and equipment floated in space around it. Emergency lights flashed from different sections. "My God," whispered Pete. "What happened to it?" Lisa was already scanning the station. "I'm reading life signs, lots of them, but the station's structure is failing fast. We have maybe 30 minutes before it completely falls apart." Jake opened a communication channel. "Kepler station. This is Captain Morrison of the human vessel Terra Nova. We received your distress signal. How can we help?" A voice crackled through the speakers. It was shaky and filled with panic. "Human ship, this is Dr. Vextar of Kepler Station. Our main reactor is failing. The gravity generators are offline. We have 200 researchers trapped in different sections." "Can you evacuate using your own ships?" "Negative. All our escape pods were destroyed in the first explosion. We didn't expect anyone to answer our call." Jake looked at his crew. The Terra Nova wasn't designed for rescue operations. They were a mining ship with basic equipment, but they had cargo holds that could be converted to temporary shelters. "Pete, can we fit 200 people in our cargo bays?" Pete was already running calculations. "It'll be tight, sir. We'll have to dump most of our mining equipment, and we'll need to set up life support systems quickly." "Lisa, can you handle 200 Zephyrian passengers?" "I'll make it work," she said with determination. Jake opened the channel again. "Kepler Station, we're coming to get you. Start moving your people to the closest airlocks. We'll dock section by section." The next 25 minutes were the most intense of Jake's life. His crew worked like heroes, dumping valuable mining equipment to make room for passengers. Lisa set up temporary medical stations in the cargo holds. Pete rerouted life support systems to handle the extra load. One by one, they evacuated sections of the dying station. Zephyrian researchers, many of them injured, were brought aboard the Terra Nova. Some looked surprised to see humans risking their lives for them. Others were too scared to notice. Dr. Vextar was among the last to board. He was an older Zephyrian, with scars on his blue skin and silver hair. When he saw Jake, he stopped walking. "You came back for us," he said quietly. "Your species. You came back." "Of course we did," Jake replied. "That's what people do for each other." With only minutes to spare, they rescued the final group. As the Terra Nova pulled away, the Kepler station finally collapsed completely. Chunks of metal that had once been a proud research facility scattered into space. In the cargo holds, 200 Zephyrian researchers sat quietly. Many were hurt, but Lisa and her medical team worked to help them. The rescued aliens watched the humans with something like wonder. "Captain," Dr. Vextar approached Jake on the bridge. "We were studying dark matter reactions when our containment field failed. We knew the explosion would destroy the station, but we never thought anyone would come." "Why not?" Jake asked. "Because we're not human. Most species in the galaxy only help their own kind. The strong survive, the weak die. That's how it's always been." Jake shook his head. "Not for us. We believe every life has value. Human, Zephyrian, doesn't matter." Dr. Vexitar was quiet for a moment. "Your species is very unusual, Captain Morrison." 3 days later, they delivered the rescued researchers to a Zephyrian colony world. The rescue made news across several systems, though most alien governments didn't pay much attention. It was just humans being humans, soft, emotional, impractical. But some noticed. In the dark halls of the Hegemony Coalition, powerful alien leaders watched the news reports with growing concern. The reptilian Sorak Empire, the insectoid Vex Collective, and the energy-based Luminary Dominion had ruled the galaxy for thousands of years. They kept order through strength and fear. Humans were supposed to be workers, not heroes. They were supposed to stay in their place, not make other species think differently about cooperation and kindness. Supreme Overlord Thexkar of the Sorak Empire watched the rescue footage with cold, calculating eyes. "These humans are becoming a problem," he hissed to his advisors. "They're giving other species dangerous ideas about equality and compassion." Back on Earth, Admiral Kate Sullivan read the report about Jake's rescue mission. She smiled with pride, but also felt a chill of worry. In her long career, she had learned that doing the right thing sometimes made powerful enemies. She was right to worry. 6 months after the Kepler station rescue, things started changing across human space. The rescued Zephyrian scientists had shared their research with human colonies, and the results surprised everyone. Dr. Nina Walsh stood in her laboratory, on the research station orbiting Mars, staring at the impossible readings on her screen. "This can't be right," she muttered, running the calculations again. Her assistant, Dr. Rick Chen, looked over her shoulder. "The numbers don't lie, Nina. When we combined Zephyrian dark matter theory with human engineering methods, we created something completely new." Nina nodded slowly. "A power source that's 3 times more efficient than anything the galaxy has ever seen. And we did it by accident." Similar breakthroughs were happening on dozens of human worlds. Engineers were combining alien knowledge in ways that surprised even the aliens who had created the original technology. Humans had a gift for taking existing ideas and making them better. On the agricultural world of New Portland, farmers were using adapted Vex biotechnology to grow crops that could feed twice as many people. On the mining colony of Haven, workers were using modified luminary energy techniques to extract resources from asteroids that other species thought were empty. The galaxy was starting to notice. In the capital city of the Galactic Federation, Senator Amy Davis walked through the halls of power with growing confidence. More and more alien representatives were asking for meetings with human diplomats. Species that had ignored humanity for centuries were suddenly interested in trade agreements and technology sharing. "Senator Davis," called a voice behind her. She turned to see Ambassador Corthan of the Alterian Republic hurrying to catch up with her. "Ambassador," Amy smiled. "What can I do for you?" "My people are very interested in the new agricultural techniques your colonists have developed. We have several worlds that struggle with food production." Amy nodded. I'm sure we can work something out. Humans believe in sharing knowledge that can help people. As Corthan walked away looking pleased, Amy didn't notice the dark figure watching from the shadows. Agent Zix of the Hegemony Intelligence Service recorded every word of their conversation. Deep in the fortress world of Saurak Prime, Supreme Overlord Thexkar studied reports from across the galaxy. His reptilian features showed growing anger. As he read each document, "The humans are becoming too influential," he hissed to his war council. "Their soft philosophy of cooperation is spreading to other species. Some are starting to question our authority." General Marcus Cole of the Earth Defense Force wouldn't have been surprised by Thexkar's words. On Earth, Marcus was reviewing intelligence reports that showed increased hegemony military activity near human space. "They're moving ships closer to our borders," he told Admiral Kate Sullivan during their weekly briefing. "Nothing, obviously, threatening, but the pattern is clear." Kate studied the star charts. "How many species are in their coalition now?" "Three main powers. The Sauric Empire controls about 40 star systems. The Vex Collective has their hive worlds in the galactic core. The Luminary Dominion claims the energy-rich regions near the galactic center. Together, they have the strongest military in known space. And they see us as a threat?" Marcus nodded grimly. "We're changing the rules of the game. For thousands of years, the galaxy has worked on the principle that might makes right. The strong rule, the weak serve. But humans are proving that cooperation and innovation can be just as powerful as military strength." On the other side of the galaxy, the Hegemony War Council was reaching the same conclusion. In the biomechanical chambers of the Vex Collective, Queen Zarthes communicated with her fellow rulers through quantum thought links. The human influence grows daily. Her mental voice buzzed with irritation. Their rescue of the Zephyrians has inspired other weak species to expect help during crises. This disrupts the natural order. From the energy cities of the Luminari, Dominion, Lord Photon's voice crackled with electric anger. "Our tributary species are asking questions about their arrangements with us. They wonder why they can't have partnerships like the humans offer instead of servitude, Supreme Overlord." Thexkar's voice was coldest of all. "Then we remind them why the strong rule and the weak obey. We will make an example that the entire galaxy will understand." The target they chose was New Portland, a peaceful agricultural world with 50 million human inhabitants. It was far from Earth, lightly defended and perfect for sending a message. Commander Ryan Torres was enjoying a quiet morning with his family when the emergency alert sounded across New Portland. As the colony's defense coordinator, he had to leave his breakfast and report to the command center immediately. "What's the situation?" he asked as he entered the military facility. Lieutenant Colonel Claire Bennett, his second in command, looked pale. "Sir, we have multiple large ships dropping out of hyperspace at the edge of the system. They're not responding to our communication attempts." Ryan looked at the tactical display. 12 massive warships, each one larger than anything in the human fleet. His heart sank as he recognized the designs. "Sauric Empire dreadnoughts," he said quietly. "And those smaller ships, Vex attack cruisers. This is a hegemony fleet." "Sir, what are your orders?" Ryan knew there was nothing his small defense force could do against such overwhelming firepower. New Portland had been peaceful for so long that most of its military equipment was outdated mining lasers and old patrol ships. "Send a message to Earth. Tell them the hegemony is here. Then we evacuate as many civilians as we can." The hegemony fleet's answer came in the form of a single transmission. "Supreme Overlord." Thexkar's reptilian face appeared on screens across New Portland. "Humans of this world." His voice was cold and emotionless. "Your species has forgotten its place in the galactic order. You spread dangerous ideas about equality and cooperation. This ends now. You have 1 hour to consider our message to your people. Submit or watch your worlds burn." Ryan tried to respond, tried to negotiate, but the hegemony ships had already cut communication. They weren't interested in surrender. This was never about conquest. It was about sending a message to the entire galaxy. 55 minutes later, the orbital bombardment began. Ryan Torres died at his post, still trying to coordinate evacuations. Claire Bennett died helping children board the last transport ship. Millions of farmers, teachers, doctors, and families died in the first wave of energy beams that turned their cities to ash. Dr. Nina Walsh, still on Mars, was among the first to receive the news. She watched in horror as the reports came in. New Portland, a world she had visited just last month, was gone. Completely gone. On Earth, General Marcus Cole stood in the Situation Room as the final transmission came from New Portland. The last defense satellite showed the planet's surface, turning from green and blue to black and red before the signal cut out. 50 million people, Senator Amy Davis whispered. They killed 50 million innocent people. Admiral Kate Sullivan's face was stone. In all her years of military service, she had never seen anything so brutal, so unnecessary. Sir, an aide, approached General Marcus. We're receiving messages from human colonies across the galaxy. They're all asking the same thing. What are our orders? Marcus looked around the room. Every face showed the same expression. Shock turning to anger, grief becoming rage. The Hegemony Coalition had made their point. They were the strongest, and they would destroy anyone who challenged their authority. But they had made one critical error in their calculations. They assumed humans would react like other species, with fear, submission, and acceptance of their place in the galactic order. They didn't understand that humans were different. They didn't know that attacking innocent people wouldn't make humanity submit. It would make them furious, and a furious humanity was something the galaxy had never seen before. The news of New Portland's destruction spread across human space faster than anyone thought possible. Within 24 hours, every human colony, station, and ship in the galaxy knew what had happened. Director Sam Blake sat in his office at Earth Intelligence Agency headquarters, watching reports flood in from across human space. What he saw amazed and terrified him at the same time. Sir? His aide, Captain Alex Young, knocked on the door. You need to see this. Alex handed him a datapad with colony response reports. Sam read through them with growing disbelief. Every single colony? Sam asked. Everyone, sir. From the furthest mining outpost to the biggest agricultural worlds. They're all saying the same thing. Sam read the messages again. Colony after colony declaring war on the Hegemony Coalition. Not asking for permission from Earth, not waiting for orders. Just declaring war. How many people are we talking about, Alex? 15 billion on Earth, sir. Another 8 billion across 237 colonies and stations. Every single human settlement wants to fight. On the colony world of Haven, Mayor Julie Adams stood before a crowd of 50,000 miners and their families. Her voice carried across the square as she spoke into the microphone. The hegemony thinks they can murder our people and we'll just accept it, she said. They think we'll bow down and stay quiet. They're wrong. The crowd roared its agreement. These weren't soldiers or politicians. They were ordinary people, miners, farmers, teachers, engineers. But the destruction of New Portland had changed something inside every human in the galaxy. We're not just going to fight, Julie continued. We're going to win, and we're going to make sure nothing like this ever happens again. Back on Earth, President Kevin Murphy called an emergency session of the Global Defense Council. Military leaders, scientists, and engineers gathered in the secure conference room beneath the Capitol. Ladies and gentlemen, President Murphy began, we are now at war with the most powerful military alliance in galactic history. They have bigger ships, more advanced weapons, and thousands of years of experience. Any suggestions? Professor Joe Adams, Earth's leading military strategist, stood up. Sir, we can't fight them the way they expect us to fight. We can't build bigger ships or stronger weapons fast enough, but we have something they don't. Which is? We think differently. Every human innovation in the past 6 months came from combining existing technology in new ways. We need to do the same thing with warfare. Dr. Nina Walsh raised her hand. Joe's right. I've been looking at hegemony military technology. It's powerful, but it's also predictable. They haven't changed their basic designs in centuries because they've never needed to. So what do you suggest? Asked General Marcus Cole. We innovate, Nina replied. We take everything we know about their technology and turn it against them. The meeting lasted 18 hours. When it ended, Earth's entire industrial and scientific capability had been reorganized for war. But this wasn't the slow, methodical preparation that other species used. This was something the galaxy had never seen. Captain Alex Young found himself promoted to admiral and put in charge of the most secret project in human history. In hidden shipyards around Earth's moon, human engineers worked around the clock on designs that would have seemed impossible just weeks earlier. Admiral, Chief Engineer Holly Brooks approached Alex on the construction platform. The first prototype is ready for testing. Alex looked at the ship in front of him. It was smaller than most human vessels, with a strange angular design that seemed to bend light around it. Does it work? Holly smiled. Sir, this ship is completely invisible to every known sensor type in the galaxy. Radar, thermal, quantum, even biological senses can't detect it. We've tested it against captured hegemony equipment. How many can we build? With full production, about 50 per week. Each one can carry enough firepower to destroy a hegemony dreadnought. While Alex's ships were being built, Major Claire Bennett's sister Karen was working on an even more ambitious project. Karen Bennett had been a biologist before the war, but now she led a team of scientists developing something that would make the hegemony regret their attack. The Sorak Empire's physiology is based on cold-blooded reptilian systems, she explained to her team. Their body temperature regulation is completely different from mammals. If we can create a virus that affects their temperature control, they'd be helpless, finished Dr. Rick Chen, unable to function in normal space environments. Exactly. And for the Vex Collective, we target their hive communication system, disrupt their mental links, and their entire military coordination collapses. The work was intense, dangerous, and completely focused. But it was also something else. It was driven by a kind of determination that other species had never experienced. Every human working on the war effort had the same image in their minds. 50 million innocent people dying for no reason except to send a message. 3 weeks after New Portland's destruction, the first human strike came. Admiral Alex Young stood on the bridge of his stealth ship Avenger as it approached the Sorak mining world of Zeta Prime. Around him, 49 other invisible ships moved through space like ghosts. Admiral, we're in position, reported Captain Holly Brooks from the Retribution. Are there any civilian targets on the planet? Negative, sir. Pure military installation, weapon manufacturing, and fleet repair facilities. Then let's give them a message they'll understand. All ships fire at will. The attack lasted exactly 12 minutes. 50 human ships appeared from nowhere, destroyed every military target on Zeta Prime, and vanished back into space before the Saurak defense fleet could even respond. The Saurak commanders were stunned. Their sensors had shown empty space right up until the moment human weapons started firing. It should have been impossible. Supreme Overlord Thexkar received the report in his throne room on Saurak Prime. For the first time in his long life, he felt something he had never experienced before. Uncertainty. They destroyed everything? He asked his admiral. Yes, Supreme Overlord, but they left all the civilian mining equipment untouched. They only targeted military installations. How many ships did they lose? None, sir. Our forces never got a clean shot at them. Thexkar was quiet for a long moment. This wasn't how other species fought. When the Saurak Empire made war, they destroyed everything. Military, civilian, everything that could support their enemies, but humans had attacked with surgical precision, hitting only military targets. And the message they left? His admiral looked uncomfortable. They broadcast it on all frequencies, sir. Admiral Kate Sullivan of Earth said, "We know where every hegemony military base is located. Surrender now, or watch them burn one by one." On Earth, Admiral Kate Sullivan stood before the United Colonies Council as representatives from across human space participated via hologram. The first strike was successful, she reported. 0 human casualties, total destruction of the target. The hegemony now knows we can hit them anywhere, anytime. "What's our next move?" asked Colonel Grace Mitchell from the Mars Defense Station. "We give them time to think about surrendering," Kate replied. "But we also prepare for their answer." She was right to prepare. The hegemony's answer came 3 days later in the form of attacks on 6 human colonies simultaneously. But this time, the colonies were ready. The stealth ships appeared like magic around each hegemony fleet. Karen Bennett's biological weapons disabled Saurak crews within minutes. Vex hive ships found their communication systems jammed by frequencies that turned their strength into weakness. The Luminari energy beings discovered that humans had learned to drain their power sources, leaving them floating helplessly in space. Within 1 week, humanity had proven something that terrified the entire galaxy. They could fight the strongest military alliance in history and win. But the most frightening thing wasn't human military power. It was the message they sent after each victory. "We're not here to conquer you. We're here to stop you from murdering innocent people. Surrender, and this ends." Other species across the galaxy watched these battles with amazement. For thousands of years, they had accepted that the strong ruled and the weak served. But humans were proving that determination and intelligence could defeat raw power. More importantly, humans were fighting for something different than conquest or resources. They were fighting for justice, and that was something the galaxy had never seen before. The war that the Hegemony Coalition thought would last days had now continued for 6 months. What started as a simple demonstration of power had become their worst nightmare. Fleet Admiral Danny Price stood on the bridge of the human flagship, just as it moved through hyperspace toward the Vex Collective's home system. Around him, his crew worked with the quiet efficiency of people who had been fighting and winning for months. "Admiral," Captain Holly Brooks called from the tactical station, "we're receiving the final intelligence reports from our scout ships." Danny looked at the holographic display that showed the Vex home system. Dozens of hive worlds orbited a massive star, each one containing billions of insectoid beings. "How many civilian populations?" "Approximately 40 billion Vex civilians across 12 worlds, sir. But they're mixed in with military installations on every planet." This was the challenge that made human warfare different from anything the galaxy had ever seen. Other species would simply destroy entire worlds to eliminate military threats. Humans insisted on protecting innocent life, even when it belonged to their enemies. "Status on Dr. Chen's psychological warfare program?" Holly smiled grimly. "Ready to deploy, sir. Rick's team has developed a communication virus that will broadcast directly into Vex neural networks. It won't harm civilians, but it will completely disrupt their military command structure." Dr. Rick Chen had spent months studying captured Vex technology. The insectoid species shared thoughts through biological quantum links that connected every member of their society. It was their greatest strength, perfect coordination across billions of individuals. It was also their greatest weakness. "Begin the broadcast," Danny ordered. Across the Vex home system, something unprecedented happened. For the first time in their species' history, the military hive networks went silent. Vex soldiers found themselves unable to communicate with their commanders. Battleships drifted aimlessly as their crews struggled to function without the constant mental connection that had defined their existence. But civilian Vex were unaffected. Rick's virus specifically targeted military neural patterns, leaving ordinary citizens confused but unharmed. "Sir," Holly reported, "Vex military forces are in complete disarray. They're trying to surrender, but they can't coordinate well enough to send a clear message." On the other side of the galaxy, Colonel Grace Mitchell was leading the assault on luminary Dominion energy cities. The beings of pure energy had always considered themselves untouchable. How do you fight an enemy that has no physical form? Humans had found a way. "Deploy the energy siphons," Grace ordered from her command ship. Human engineers had studied luminary technology for months, learning how the energy beings maintained their form and consciousness. Then they had built weapons specifically designed to drain that energy. Across the luminary homeworlds, the lights began going out. The magnificent energy cities that had existed for thousands of years started to dim and fade. Luminary beings found themselves weakening, unable to maintain their consciousness without external power sources. "Colonel," her aide reported, "Lord Photon is requesting immediate surrender. He says his people will die if we continue the energy drain." "Tell him to order all Luminary military forces to stand down," Grace replied. "The moment we confirm compliance, we'll stop the drain and provide emergency power supplies." This was typical of human tactics. They were absolutely ruthless against military targets, but the moment an enemy surrendered, humans would go out of their way to provide humanitarian aid. Back in Saurak space, the Reptilian Empire was facing its own crisis. The biological weapons developed by Karen Bennett's team had proven devastatingly effective. Saurak soldiers couldn't function in the cold vacuum of space without their temperature regulation systems working properly. Supreme Overlord Thexkar sat in his throne room, reading report after report of military defeats. His empire, which had ruled vast sectors of the galaxy for millennia, was collapsing in a matter of months. "How is this possible?" he hissed to his remaining admirals. "They're just humans. Weak, soft, emotional humans." Admiral Zektar, one of the few Saurak commanders to survive multiple encounters with human forces, spoke carefully. "Supreme Overlord, I believe we misunderstood their nature." "Explain." "We thought their emotions made them weak, but their anger over New Portland has made them focused in a way we've never seen. They don't fight for territory or resources. They fight for justice. And that makes them dangerous. They're still just one species against our entire coalition." "Sir, with respect, we no longer have a coalition. The Vex Collective has effectively surrendered. The Luminary Dominion is negotiating terms. We're facing the humans alone." On Earth, President Kevin Murphy read the daily briefings with a mixture of pride and concern. Human forces were winning every engagement, but the cost was beginning to show. "How are our people holding up?" he asked Admiral Kate Sullivan. "Better than expected, sir. Morale is high because everyone believes in what we're fighting for. But we've been at war for 6 months. Our industrial capacity is stretched to its limits." "And casualties?" Kate's expression grew somber. "Much lower than projected, sir. Human tactics of precise strikes and advanced technology have kept our losses minimal, but every death still hurts." "What's the status of the hegemony surrender negotiations?" "The Vex and Luminari are ready to sign terms. They'll accept human oversight of their military forces and pay reparations for New Portland. But the Saurak Empire is still fighting." President Murphy nodded. "Thexkar won't give up easily. He's ruled through fear for too long to understand any other way." Meanwhile, Dr. Lisa Carter was working in refugee camps that had been set up to help displaced Vex and Luminari civilians. The same humans who were destroying hegemony military forces were also providing food, medical care, and shelter to their former enemies. Dr. Carter, a young Vex worker, approached her. "I don't understand. Why do your people help us? We were your enemies." Lisa looked at the insectoid being. Like all Vex, he resembled a large, intelligent insect with compound eyes and delicate limbs. "You weren't our enemy. Your leaders were. There's a difference. But in war, all members of a species are enemies." "Not to humans," Lisa replied. "We believe that ordinary people just want to live peaceful lives. It's only the leaders who choose war." This conversation was happening across the galaxy as human forces encountered hegemony civilians. Other species were amazed by humanity's ability to distinguish between combatants and non-combatants, between guilty and innocent. Captain Jake Morrison, the mining ship captain whose rescue of Zephyrian scientists had helped start this crisis, now found himself commanding a battle group near the Saurak border. His ships were preparing for what everyone hoped would be the final assault. "Jake," Admiral Danny Price's voice came through the communication system. "We've located Thexkar's main fleet. They're making a last stand at the fortress world of Saurak Prime." "How many ships?" "About 200 dreadnoughts and support vessels. Everything they have left." Jake looked at his tactical display. The human fleet approaching Saurak Prime consisted of just 50 ships. By traditional military, thinking they were heavily outnumbered, but human ships weren't traditional. "Danny, what are the civilian populations on Saurak Prime?" Intelligence estimates about 2 billion Saurak civilians mixed throughout the planet's cities. Jake, we can't use our biological weapons on the fortress world without risking innocent lives. Jake understood. This final battle would have to be fought ship to ship, space combat only. It would be the most dangerous engagement of the war. All ships, Jake announced to his battle group. Remember what we're fighting for. 50 million people died on New Portland because the hegemony wanted to send a message about power. Today, we send our own message about justice. As the human fleet approached Saurak Prime, Supreme Overlord Thexkar stood on the bridge of his flagship Dominator. For the first time in his life, he was about to fight an enemy that he couldn't intimidate, couldn't bribe, and couldn't defeat through raw strength. All ships, he commanded his fleet. Today we face extinction or victory. Show these humans what it means to challenge the Saurak Empire. The battle for Saurak Prime was about to begin. The Battle of Saurak Prime lasted 12 hours and changed the galaxy forever. Captain Jake Morrison watched from the bridge of his command ship as human stealth vessels danced between massive Saurak dreadnoughts. The reptilian ships were powerful, but they were fighting an enemy they couldn't see until it was too late. Jake. Admiral Danny Price's voice came through the communication system. Thexkar's flagship is trying to escape to the outer system. I see it, Jake replied, watching the massive Dominator turn away from the battle. Should we pursue? Negative. Let him go for now. We need to secure the surrender of his remaining forces first. The battle was already over, even though many Saurak commanders didn't realize it yet. Human ships had systematically destroyed the enemy fleet's weapon systems while leaving life support intact. It was a demonstration of precision that amazed even veteran human crews. All Saurak vessels, Danny broadcast on all frequencies. Your weapons are disabled. Your shields are down. Surrender now and your crews will be treated with respect and dignity. One by one, the great dreadnoughts of the Saurak Empire powered down their engines and activated distress beacons. The most feared military force in galactic history had been defeated by 50 human ships. But Supreme Overlord Thexkar wasn't finished. From his damaged flagship, he sent one final message to the human fleet. You may have won today, his reptilian voice hissed with rage, but you've made enemies across the galaxy. Other species will unite against your growing power. You cannot police the entire universe. Admiral Kate Sullivan, commanding the overall human fleet from Earth, responded personally. Thexkar, you're under arrest for genocide and crimes against sentient beings. Surrender your ship and you'll receive a fair trial under galactic law. I will never surrender to inferior humans. Then you'll be taken by force. The capture of Thexkar's flagship took only minutes. Human Marines led by Major Claire Bennett's replacement Colonel Sam Foster boarded the Dominator and arrested the Supreme Overlord without firing a shot. The great tyrant who had ruled through fear for centuries was led away in restraints. 3 days later, the war officially ended. The Vex Collective, Luminary Dominion, and Saurak Empire all signed unconditional surrender agreements. The Hegemony Coalition ceased to exist, but the real changes were just beginning. 6 months after the war's end, representatives from over 300 species gathered on Earth for an unprecedented event, the trial of the Hegemony leadership for genocide. Judge Maria Santos, Earth's most respected legal expert, presided over the proceedings. In the defendant's dock sat Thexkar, Queen Zarthes of the Vex, and Lord Photon of the Luminari. You stand accused, Judge Santos announced, of the systematic murder of 50 million innocent civilians on the human world of New Portland, and of maintaining systems of oppression across dozens of star systems for thousands of years. The trial lasted 3 months and was broadcast live across the galaxy. For the first time, ordinary beings on countless worlds heard detailed testimony about hegemony brutality and oppression. Dr. Vextar, the Zephyrian scientist that Jake Morrison had rescued years earlier, testified about how the hegemony had prevented scientific cooperation between species. They kept us isolated, he said, because they knew that cooperation would make us stronger than any individual empire. Representative after representative from oppressed species told their stories. The galaxy learned about tribute systems that had impoverished entire worlds, military occupations that had lasted centuries, and the systematic suppression of any attempt at peaceful cooperation between species. When the evidence phase ended, Judge Santos delivered the verdict. The defendants are guilty of genocide, crimes against sentient beings, and the systematic oppression of hundreds of billions of innocent people. They are sentenced to life imprisonment on the monitoring station of Alcatraz 7, where they will have the opportunity to contemplate the suffering they have caused. The sentence was controversial. Many species expected the humans to execute their former enemies or subject them to the same cruelty the hegemony had shown others. Instead, humans built a comfortable prison facility where the former tyrants would live under constant supervision but with access to books, communication with their families, and medical care. It was a demonstration of human justice that amazed the galaxy. President Kevin Murphy stood before the Galactic Assembly in the new capital city of Geneva on Earth. Representatives from across known space listened as he outlined humanity's vision for the future. The old galaxy was ruled by fear, he said. The strong dominated the weak, and cooperation was seen as weakness. That ends today. We propose a new organization, the Terran Commonwealth. Not an empire, but a voluntary alliance, a free species working together for mutual benefit and protection. Ambassador Rose Taylor, Earth's new chief diplomat, had spent months traveling to different worlds explaining the Commonwealth concept. The response had been overwhelming. Over 200 species have already requested membership, she reported, to the Assembly. They want protection from future tyrants, but more than that, they want to be part of something better. The Commonwealth structure was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Instead of one species ruling others, each member world had equal representation. Decisions were made by consensus, with disputes resolved by neutral arbitration. Most importantly, the Commonwealth was protected by the human guardian fleet. Admiral Jake Morrison, promoted from his days as a mining ship captain, now commanded a force of 500 advanced starships dedicated to one mission: protecting any species threatened by oppression or genocide. "We're not conquerors," Jake explained to his fleet commanders during their first formal briefing. "We're guardians. Our job is to make sure that what happened to New Portland never happens to anyone, anywhere." The Guardian Fleet's first major operation came just 6 months after its formation. A species called the Corvani had been enslaved by metal-based machines known as the Iron Collective. The Corvani sent a desperate plea for help to the Commonwealth. Captain Holly Brooks, now commanding her own Guardian ship, led the rescue mission. The Iron Collective's mechanical dreadnoughts were powerful, but they had never faced human adaptive technology. "Deploy the electromagnetic pulse weapons," Holly ordered as her task force approached the Corvani homeworld. The machine's advantage disappeared instantly as their electronic systems were overloaded by human EMP technology. Within hours, the Corvani were free, and the Iron Collective was forced to sign treaties recognizing the rights of organic beings. Dr. Lisa Carter, now heading the Commonwealth Medical Corps, arrived on the Corvani world just days after its liberation. She and her team provided medical care to beings who had been enslaved for generations. "How can we thank you?" asked Elder Corvani leader Veltar as Lisa treated his people's wounds. "By building a better future," Lisa replied. "By making sure this never happens to anyone else." The Commonwealth grew rapidly. Species that had been enemies for centuries found themselves working together on joint projects. Zephyrian science combined with human engineering produced technologies that benefited everyone. Vex agricultural knowledge helped feed worlds that had struggled with hunger. Even former hegemony species joined the Commonwealth. Many Saurak, Vex, and Luminari wanted to make up for their leaders' crimes by contributing to a better galaxy. 5. Years after the war's end, Admiral Kate Sullivan stood in the Commonwealth Council chambers, looking out at representatives from over 400 species. As the Commonwealth Secretary General, she had helped transform the galaxy from a place ruled by fear into something unprecedented, a civilization based on cooperation and justice. "We've come a long way," she said to President Murphy, who was visiting Earth from his new office on the Commonwealth capital world of Unity. "Do you think it will last?" Kevin asked. Kate smiled. "As long as humans remember why we fought this war. We didn't fight for power or territory. We fought because innocent people were murdered, and we couldn't let that stand. And if someone threatens the Commonwealth, then they'll discover what the hegemony learned," Kate replied. "That humans don't fight to conquer. We fight to protect, and that makes us more dangerous than any empire that ever existed." In the Commonwealth's military academies, young officers from dozens of species studied human tactical manuals. They learned about precision strikes, adaptive technology, and the importance of protecting civilian populations. But most importantly, they learned about fighting for justice rather than conquest. The phrase "Remember New Portland" became the Commonwealth motto, carved into monuments on hundreds of worlds. It served as a reminder of what happened when the strong tried to intimidate the innocent, and when those who stood for justice decided to fight back. Captain Jake Morrison, now in his 60s but still commanding Guardian Fleet operations, often thought about how it all started. A simple rescue mission to save Zephyrian scientists had led to the transformation of galactic civilization. "Do you ever regret it?" Dr. Lisa Carter asked him during one of their regular visits. They were old friends now, veterans of the war that had changed everything. "Regret saving those scientists?" "Never," Jake replied. "Though I sometimes wonder what the galaxy would look like if we hadn't."